When someone ignores you, your first instinct is often to react. You want to prove your worth, demand acknowledgement, or at least ask, why are you treating me this way? But here's the truth. Reacting out of impulse gives them exactly what they want: power over your emotions. Silence, on the other hand, is not weakness. It's strategy. When you respond with silence, you do three things at once. First, you protect your dignity. You show that your value does not depend on their validation. The moment you stop chasing acknowledgement, you reclaim control over yourself. Second, you shift the power dynamic. People expect a reaction. They expect you to beg, argue, or defend yourself. But when your silence says, you don't define me, it unsettles them. It forces them to face their own behavior without your participation. Third, you conserve your energy. Not every battle deserves your words. Not every person deserves your explanation. Silence allows you to invest your energy in people and places that see your worth, rather than wasting it where it will never be recognized. Understand this: being ignored doesn't diminish you. It exposes them. And silence magnifies that exposure. The most powerful statement you can ever make is sometimes the one you never say out loud. So the next time you're ignored, don't fight for attention. Don't beg for acknowledgement. Stand tall in your silence, because silence isn't emptiness. It's strength, it's control, and it's the loudest response you'll ever give. When someone chooses to ignore you, it can feel like an attack on your very sense of worth. It stirs up emotions: anger, frustration, sadness, confusion. The instinctive response is to react, to demand answers, to fight for acknowledgement. But in doing so, you hand over your dignity, and that is something no one should ever have the power to take from you. Protecting your dignity is not about proving yourself to others. It is about standing firm in your own self-respect. Silence becomes the shield that guards this dignity when words could easily compromise it. Think about what happens when you chase after someone's attention. The moment you try to explain yourself to someone who is deliberately ignoring you, you place your worth in their hands. You make their validation the prize and yourself the one competing for it. That is a position of weakness, and it undermines the truth that your value is not determined by anyone's acknowledgement. By staying silent, you refuse to participate in that imbalance. You say, without uttering a single word, I know who I am, and I don't need you to tell me. That is the essence of dignity. Silence is not about being passive or submissive. It is about restraint and discipline. Anyone can lash out when they feel dismissed. Anyone can speak words they later regret. But it takes true inner strength to withhold, to resist, to let your silence carry the message. Dignity is not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It is quiet, firm, unshakable. And when you meet ignorance or disrespect with silence, you preserve that dignity instead of lowering yourself into a battle that strips it away. The power of silence is that it communicates without exposing you. When someone ignores you, they expect a reaction. They expect you to justify yourself, to beg, to demand an explanation. If you give them that, you confirm their control. If you remain silent, you give them nothing. Your dignity stays intact, and you deny them the satisfaction of knowing they can manipulate your emotions. In that silence, you communicate more than any words ever could. You communicate that your self-worth is not negotiable. There is another dimension to protecting your dignity through silence. It keeps you from being dragged into pettiness. Words can easily escalate into arguments, accusations, and conflict. When you speak in reaction to being ignored, you often give away too much of yourself. Your pain, your insecurity, your vulnerability, those things can be twisted, misunderstood, or even used against you. Silence protects all of that. It is a boundary. It says, you don't get access to me at this level. Protecting your dignity is about knowing what is worth giving and what is worth guarding. Silence is the way you guard. This kind of silence is not empty. It is intentional. It is a choice you make because you understand that your energy, your words, and your emotions are valuable. To waste them on someone who is deliberately ignoring you is to devalue yourself. When you choose silence, you are not conceding defeat. You are choosing to honor yourself. You are saying that you are too valuable to beg, too strong to be rattled, and too wise to waste words where they will not be heard. Your dignity is also connected to how you see yourself in the mirror. If you lose control in the face of being ignored, you walk away feeling diminished, as if you allowed someone else to dictate your behavior. That is not how dignity survives. But if you remain silent, even when it hurts, you walk away with your head held high. You know that you chose control over chaos, self-respect over reaction, and that choice builds a stronger sense of self, one that is not easily shaken the next time you encounter disrespect. Silence is also the language of confidence. People who know their worth do not need to fight for acknowledgement. They let others reveal themselves while they preserve their own ground. When you are silent in the face of being ignored, you show that you do not need anyone's attention to validate your existence. That kind of quiet confidence protects your dignity more than any argument ever could. It says you are secure enough in yourself to rise above the insult of being overlooked. To protect your dignity, you must understand that not all people are capable of seeing your worth. Sometimes their silence is a reflection of their own limitations, not yours. If you allow their behavior to provoke you into chasing acknowledgement, you lower yourself to their level. But if you stay silent, you rise above it. Your dignity is preserved because you did not let someone else's inability to value you determine how you value yourself. Silence also gives you clarity. In moments of being ignored, emotions can cloud judgment. Words spoken in haste can deepen wounds or create new ones. But silence gives you space to step back, to process, to decide what truly deserves your energy. Protecting your dignity means making decisions that align with your long-term self-respect, not your short-term emotions. And silence gives you the time and control to make those decisions wisely. There will always be people who ignore you, dismiss you, or try to undermine your presence. You cannot control them, but you can control yourself. And in that control lies your dignity. Silence is not about pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about choosing to respond in a way that does not cost you your self-respect. It's about protecting the most important thing you have, your sense of who you are. When someone ignores you, they are not just withholding words, they are testing control. Ignoring is a silent act of power, a way of saying, I decide whether or not you matter right now. Many people fall into that trap by reacting instantly. They chase, they question, they explain, they beg for acknowledgement, and in that very moment, they hand over their power. The one who ignores becomes the one in control, while the one who reacts becomes the one seeking approval. But silence flips that equation upside down. Silence shifts the power dynamic because it denies the other person the reaction they were counting on. The expectation is always that you will do something, that you will ask why they are ignoring you, that you will demand an answer, that you will fight for their attention. They rely on this instinctive human urge to be seen and heard. But when you do not give them that satisfaction, when your silence stands in place of words, it breaks their script. Suddenly, they do not know what role they are playing anymore. They are left unsettled, forced to wonder why you are not responding the way they anticipated. That uncertainty transfers power from them back to you. Power is not about who speaks the loudest. It is about who controls the interaction. And the one who controls the interaction is the one who dictates the emotional tone. Silence makes you the one in control because you are not giving your emotions away freely. You are not letting their actions pull you like a puppet. You are holding steady, refusing to be drawn into their game. That is how the balance shifts, through restraint, not reaction. Consider how powerful silence can feel in a confrontation. If someone insults you and you respond with anger, you've given them evidence that their word landed exactly where they wanted. But if you stay silent, you strip their words of impact. The same applies to being ignored. If you chase after acknowledgement, you affirm their position of control. But if you remain silent, you deny them the satisfaction. You don't just even the playing field. You tilt it in your favor because now they are the ones wondering what your silence means. Silence forces people to reflect in a way words often don't. When you argue, they focus on your words, on defending themselves, on maintaining the upper hand. When you are silent, they are left with nothing but themselves. They may begin to question whether you are offended, indifferent, or simply stronger than they expected. That questioning itself is a transfer of power because now they are the ones chasing answers in their own head while you remain unbothered. The shift in dynamic also comes from the way silence preserves your position. When you respond emotionally, you give them leverage. They can twist your words, use them against you, or dismiss them entirely. Silence offers no leverage. There is nothing to twist, nothing to manipulate, nothing to dismiss. Your silence becomes a wall, and walls are powerful because they cannot be pushed back in the same way words can. People underestimate silence because it looks passive on the surface, but silence is not passive when it is chosen deliberately. It is active. It is calculated. It is a strategy that communicates, I am not moved by you. I am not controlled by you. I choose not to engage. That is the strongest message you can send without speaking. And it shifts the entire dynamic because it makes the other person realize that their tactic has failed. Silence also creates an air of mystery. When you don't react, the other person doesn't know what you're thinking. They don't know whether you are hurt, indifferent, or planning your next move. That uncertainty is unsettling. It forces them to fill in the blanks, and often they will fill those blanks with assumptions that give you more power than you even intended. Mystery is leverage, and silence creates it effortlessly. Another reason silence shifts the dynamic is because it flips dependency. When you chase, you depend on them to give you attention. When you remain silent, you show that you don't depend on them at all. Instead, they begin to wonder why you don't care, why you haven't reacted, why you are not seeking what they expected you to seek. That reversal makes them the ones who feel the absence, not you. Suddenly, they are the ones on unstable ground, not knowing what comes next. This doesn't mean silence is easy. It requires discipline not to give in to the urge to speak, not to give in to the need to be acknowledged. But it is precisely this discipline that makes silence so powerful. Most people cannot handle being ignored without reacting. When you show that you demonstrate a higher level of control. That demonstration alone shifts the balance because power gravitates to the one who shows the most self-mastery. The shift also comes from time. Silence has a way of stretching moments, making the other person feel the weight of it. A few seconds of silence can feel like an eternity when someone expects a reaction. That weight builds pressure, and pressure always reveals where true power lies. If you can remain silent longer than they can remain comfortable, the power belongs to you. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is communication of a different kind. It tells the other person that they do not control your behavior. It tells them that you are not desperate for their acknowledgement. It tells them that their attempts to diminish you will not succeed. In that silence, the power dynamic shifts completely. Every time someone ignores you, there is a natural urge to spend energy proving your worth. You want to show them that you exist, that you matter, that their silence does not define you. But the truth is, chasing acknowledgement drains you. It pulls you into a cycle of emotional exhaustion where you are constantly giving more than you are receiving. This is why silence is so powerful. It conserves your energy. It allows you to redirect what would otherwise be wasted on those who dismiss you toward people and pursuits that truly deserve your attention. Energy is not infinite. Every word you speak, every reaction you give, every explanation you provide takes something out of you. When someone chooses to ignore you and you spend your time trying to change that, you invest emotional energy into a place where there is no return. It's like pouring water into a cracked vessel. No matter how much you give, it will never be full. Silence stops that drain. It acts as a seal. Instead of leaking your strength into someone else's indifference, you keep it within yourself. Silence is an act of conservation. When you don't respond, you protect your mental clarity. Arguments, confrontations, or desperate pleas for acknowledgement all cloud your thinking. They stir up emotions that leave you restless, doubting yourself, questioning your worth. But silence preserves your inner calm. It gives you space to breathe, to process, to hold on to your sense of self without being pulled into someone else's storm. By choosing silence, you are essentially choosing peace over chaos, focus over distraction. That is how energy is conserved. Consider how much energy is spent in overthinking after being ignored. You replay conversations, analyze body language, dissect every moment to figure out why, and then you use even more energy crafting responses, planning what you will say next, anticipating how they might react. This cycle can be endless, and it leaves you mentally exhausted. But silence interrupts that cycle. By deciding not to engage, you cut off the need to plan the perfect comeback or explanation. You no longer pour energy into trying to fix what was never yours to fix. Silence also shields you from unnecessary emotional depletion. Words can escalate tension. When you try to force acknowledgement, you often get resistance in return. That resistance leads to frustration, disappointment, even anger. Each of these emotions drains you further. But when you remain silent, you refuse to fuel the fire. You keep your emotional reserves intact instead of burning them away on a situation that does not deserve them. Protecting your energy is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about choosing where to place your strength. The act of conserving energy through silence is also an investment in yourself. Instead of giving away your mental and emotional power to those who withhold acknowledgement, you keep it for your own growth. You can channel that energy into your work, your passions, your relationships with people who do value you. Energy is like currency. Spend it wisely and you see returns. Waste it on indifference and you are left depleted. Silence is the decision to invest rather than waste. Another way silence conserves energy is by reducing conflict. Conflict is one of the most draining experiences a person can go through. It eats up time, focus, and peace of mind. When you respond to being ignored with silence, you lower the chances of conflict escalating. You give no fuel for arguments, no material for further tension. You hold on to your strength by avoiding unnecessary battles. That is energy you can use for progress instead of drama. Silence also strengthens your ability to stay detached from what doesn't serve you. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the ability to see where your effort is worth placing and where it is not. When you practice silence in the face of being ignored, you train yourself to detach from situations that only drain you. You stop overinvesting in people who thrive on control and you preserve your reserves for what truly matters. This detachment becomes a skill, and it keeps you from being emotionally drained by every small slight or dismissal you encounter. Protecting your energy through silence also improves your self-discipline. It takes strength not to react, not to pour words into a void where they will never be heard, but the discipline you gain from silence becomes part of your character. Over time, this discipline allows you to conserve energy, not only in moments of being ignored, but in every situation where reaction would cost you more than it gives. Silence becomes a habit that preserves your reserves, keeping you strong and steady when others would be exhausted. There is also a physical dimension to this conservation. Stress and emotional overexertion take a toll on the body. Racing thoughts, sleepless nights, headaches, fatigue. When you silence your responses, you protect not just your mind, but your body as well. You reduce stress by refusing to engage in battles that drain you. You allow your body to hold its energy instead of burning it on unnecessary conflict. Silence, in this way, is not just emotional strength, but also a form of self-care. Conserving energy through silence also sets boundaries. It sends the message that your time and attention are not freely available to those who dismiss you. By withholding your words, you communicate that you value yourself enough not to waste your energy on those who cannot reciprocate. This boundary is powerful because it prevents further depletion. It ensures that your energy is spent on people and situations that build you, not break you. Silence does not mean you do nothing. It means you choose to do the right thing with your energy. You withdraw from what drains you so you can direct your focus to what nourishes you. It is a form of self-protection that strengthens your ability to endure. In every instance where you are ignored and choose silence, you are saving pieces of yourself that would otherwise be scattered and lost. And those pieces, when kept intact, become the foundation of your strength.